Hello and welcome to the Ancient Indian History. In this session, today we will learn about the episodes of Ancient India. We will target the Rigvedic period and then we will proceed towards the later Vedic period. Let us understand what is the Rigvedic period and what was the period prior to it. If we are learning Indian history, when we are in the ancient time period, we divide the ancient into prehistory and protohistory. Prehistory and protohistory. Now, prehistory is the period where we do not have the written evidences or the time period where no script was used, meaning the time period of Stone Ages will form part of prehistory, and then Indus Valley civilization where a script by the name pictographic script or Boustro-Fidon script was used. It will form part of the protohistory, and then the ancient historical period will proceed. Now, Rigvedic period is the period somewhere around 1500 BC to 1000 BC. 1500 BC to 1000 BC, right? After this, if we will proceed further in the time period from 1000 BC to 600 BC, approximately this period is resembling the later Vedic period. Now, what happened in Rigvedic period and what are the developments in the Rigvedic period? Now, this is the topic of discussion in today's session. Rigvedic period or Rigvedic phase is also known as Aryan phase. Now, who were the Aryans? Aryans were the people who probably stayed somewhere in the steppes stretching from southern Russia to Central Asia, and they came towards India, and they are considered, or their invasion is considered as one of the reasons of the decline of Indus Valley civilization, because these Aryans came and they killed the Dasyus and Dasas who were the original inhabitants of Indus Valley civilization. Original inhabitants. Now, when these original inhabitants were killed, the term which is mentioned in the Rig Veda, it is Dasyu Hatya. Dasyu Hatya. So, the Dasyus were killed or assassinated by the Aryans. Now, there are numerous symbols which are attached with the Aryans. For example, horse, or the chariot or the rath. The chariot is also attached to the Aryans because the spoked wheel, it was introduced in India by the Aryans. Furthermore, they brought with them the concept of fire. So, fire or Agni, it is also related with the Aryans. And again, the symbols of Aryan is swastika. Swastika. Apart from swastika, the wine or the kind of intoxicants which were locally known by different names, which was consumed. So, it was a form of the wine properly known as Soma. So, the cult of Soma, the cult of fire, the Agni or the swastika, they were related with the Aryans, right? Apart from this, they were also performing the kinds of experiment, they were performing the cremation. So, the cremation or the cremating activity, it is also sometimes related with the symbols which are attached to the Aryans. Now, let us proceed further. When Aryans came to India, in which particular region these Aryans were residing? So, the Aryans originally when came to India, they were staying in the region which is known as Sapt Sindhu region. Sapt Sindhu region. This Sapt Sindhu region is known as the land of 7 rivers, the Indus and its tributaries. This part of east, west, north, south. If we will divide Indian subcontinent into these 4 divisions, east, west, north, south, this is the northwestern Indian subcontinent, which was originally inhabited by the Aryans. Now this region was known as Sapt Sindhu region. Now who are the Aryans? What is their profession? Let's understand. The Aryans are originally pastoral nomads. The Aryans are pastoral nomads. They venture from place to place, and their main occupation was pastoralism, and then their secondary occupation was agriculture. So primary occupation of the Aryans was pastoralism, and the secondary occupation was agriculture. Whereas Indian society was much ahead than the Aryans. Prior to the arrival of the Aryans, we were in Indus Valley civilization, and agriculture was our prime occupation, and we were surplus producing region of that time period. So since we were producing surplus production, we were also able to export it into different countries. For example, Syria, for example, Iraq, Afghanistan, Egypt. With all these countries, Indus Valley civilization was having the export or the trade links. We come to this conclusion with the evidence of Meluha, Dilmun and Magan, which were the trading ports and harbors, right? So the Aryans were the pastoral nomads. Their secondary occupation was agriculture. Now, these people were, when they came to India, they were also domesticating the animals. They carried with them their animals which were being domesticated by the Aryans. Now, having understood this entire rudimentary form of information and the introduction with respect to Aryans, let's proceed towards the societal developments and political administrative developments with respect to the Rig Vedic period. So, Rig Vedic period was the period where the tribal society existed. So the society in Rig Vedic period was tribal society. Now, how the tribal society is formed? It forms from a very basic concepts of family or a household. Suppose there is the formation of the household or the family first. So it will be the basic unit. When there will be family, the extended family is known as a clan, and again the extended clan is known as a tribe. So when a tribe is formed, the society is known as a tribal society. So there were numerous tribes headed by their guru, and then it was also headed by a Rajan. Suppose this is the society which is a tribal society. Now this tribal society will have its guru, separate guru, and then a Rajan will be there, right? So numerous divisions in the society were there in Rig Vedic period. Suppose if there is a family, right? If there is a family at the basic level, family is also known as Kula, Parivar, right? So family, and then clan, and then tribe. We have different terminologies by the name Gramini, by the name Kulapa or Kulpati, by the name Vispati, and then comes the Rajan. So the head of the village, he will be Gramini. The head of a Kula or a clan, it will be Kulpati or Kulapa, and then head of the Vis, it will be Vispati. Head of the entire tribe, it will be the Rajan. So this Rajan is not the independent authority, but is elected by the tribal assemblies, which were by the name Sabha, Samiti. Otherwise, there were some other tribal assemblies also apart from Sabha and Samiti. Their name was Sabha, Samiti, Bidhat. and Jana. Now, let us proceed to the second very important aspect related to the Rigvedic period, right? So, since Rigvedic period was the tribal society, here the cows were considered as property. Cows were considered as property. So, there are numerous wars over cows. Numerous wars over cows. I am taking you towards the genesis of the term Rajan and how things took place, how this Rajan or the king concept came into being, right? So in Rigvedic period, we are taking from the very beginning. Suppose there are numerous tribes, and in this tribe, the cows of the entire tribe, they were made to tie at one particular place under one tin shed. That's why the concept of Gotra came. So Gotra concept came from the very original concept, from the place where all the cows of a tribe were tied for the protection or safety purposes. Why? Because if cows were stolen, a team was prepared. Now this team will be headed by Rajan, and Rajan will have his allies and supporters. So a team will be there with Rajan and his team members, right? So they will at the night protect the entire cows of the entire tribe from being stolen by some other tribe. Parallelly, they can also stole the cows of other tribes. So they were dealing with two particular jobs. First one was save the cows of our tribe, and if possible steal the cows from other tribes, right? So the head Rajan, who was appointed by the Sabha and Samiti, he was not having original powers and he was not having any absolute powers. He can be terminated or replaced by the Sabha Samiti whenever the Sabha Samiti wants, right? So when the Sabha and Samiti will cease to exist in later Vedic period, when they will not be having the powers and they slowly and gradually became unpopularized, the Rajan became all powerful, because there is no one to put a check on Rajan now in later Vedic period. So initially the Rajan was not having any absolute power, but when the Sabha and Samiti ceased to exist in later Vedic period, the Rajan will become all powerful. Now this Rajan will increase the territory from a tribe to the territorial expansion concept, which will be the final culmination towards the concept of Mahajanpada. From a tribal society, now it will be a expansionist society, and now the territorial expansion will form part of Mahajanpada. So finally there will be 16 Mahajanpada, and Magadha as the final victor will be out of this animosity. Now this was the development that we understood, in which started in Rigvedic period and finally culminated into the later Vedic period. Let us proceed to another aspect. In Rigvedic society, there were numerous gods and their names were Indra, Agni, Varun, Som, whereas the separate god by the name Pushan was introduced in this time period. Now Pushan is considered to be a god of untouchables, right, which later came to be regarded as Shudra. This Purush Sukta, which you might have heard, Purush Shukta is the sutra of 4 lines created by the Brahmanas, by which they divided the society into 4 varna. So remember, the 4 varnas were not there in Rigvedic period, they were in the later Vedic period. Initially in the Rigvedic period, there were only 2 varnas by the name Shyamvarn and Shvetvarn. Shwet Varna. But in later Vedic period, the four Varna concept came into being because of the Brahmanas. Brahmanas came out with a Purush Sukta, a 4-line sutra which says, Brahmano asya mukham asid, bahu rajanyah kratah, arutudesya yadveshyam, पदाभ्याम शूद्रो अजायतः, यानी जो मुख है उस मुख से ब्राह्मणों का उत्पत्ति हुआ है, जो बाहु है, भुजा है, वहां से क्षत्रियों का, जंघा से हमारा उदय हुआ है वैश्यों का, और फीट पैरों से शूद्रों का। तो ये 4 वर्णों में जो सोसाइटी बांटी गई ब्राह्मणों के द्वारा, ये लेटर वैदिक पीरियड में हुआ, जबकि ऋग्वैदिक पीरियड में सोसाइटी 2 ही वर्णों में है। वी केम अक्रॉस अ पोइम, हम एक कविता पढ़ते हैं। In that poem it is said that my mother is a homemaker, my father is my mother is homemaker, she also grinds, my father is doing different profession, I am a poet. So earning livelihood from different professions, we still live together. It means in Rigvedic period the society was not divided as per the professions, rather it was only beginning in the later developments, right? So in Rigvedic period, where we are saying that the king or the Rajan was not all powerful, so the Rajan is not going to impose any of the taxes over the people. So if Rajan is not going or is not having the power of taxation, so the Rajan was only getting voluntary gifts. What was he getting? Only voluntary gifts. Why? Because Rajan was not having absolute authority. Not having absolute authority. Rajan was only appointed by the Sabha and Samiti. Appointed by tribal assemblies, right? Appointed by tribal assemblies. So tribal assemblies, they can terminate or remove the Rajan whenever they want, right? So Rajan, he got the powers or absolute powers in the later Vedic time period when Sabha and Samiti ceased to exist. So in a later Vedic period, the same Rajan is now having no checks and balances. There is no one to put a check on the Rajan. So Rajan is now having absolute powers. That's why he imposed the taxes over the people. Now the taxes were by the name Bali and Bhag. So if you are having the taxes, there will be 100% tax collecting authority. So the tax collecting authorities were also appointed by the Rajan. Remember, in Rigvedic period there was no tax collecting authority. In Rigvedic period there was no judicial authority. But the tax collecting authorities came in later Vedic period with the imposition of the taxes Bali and Bhag. So Bali Sadaga, Bhag Dugha, Sangrahitri, Ratnin, all these officials were appointed in later Vedic period as the Rajan became powerful. Now let's proceed towards the condition of women in Rigvedic period. Now the condition of women in Rigvedic period was very much good, and in the entire ancient India, the women had a considerable amount of prestigious life in Rigvedic period. So the women, they were allowed to study. They were allowed to study. They were allowed to chant Gayatri Mantra. Gayatri Mantra. Furthermore, the women were also allowed to sit along with their husband in puja or in yajnas, right? Yajnas means yajna. We have instances of women scholars in Rigvedic period. The women could also indulge into the relationship with numerous men. The women could marry multiple men. So the practice of polyandry was also there in the time period of Rigveda, right? Apart from that, when we say that the society in the Rig Veda, it was more or less egalitarian society. Since we call this particular point as an important point, it forms the basis of Arya Samaj. In Arya Samaj, Dayanand Saraswati says, go back to the Vedas. Go back to Vedas, Dayanand Saraswati. Go back to Vedas. Why does he say go back to Vedas? Because this period, Rig Vedic period, was an egalitarian society, although it was a tribal society. So women were having the privileges, women were having numerous rights, they can marry on their own. Apart from that, they can also study, they can also go through the religious scriptures. So these were all the freedoms with the women, right? Now, apart from this, when we say that in Rig Vedic period, society was not divided into 4 varnas, rather a rudimentary form of society was there, although it was a tribal society. There were numerous wars over the cows, and when we say tribal society, let's not forget that tribe was headed by a guru. So you need to understand that there were numerous tribes. For example, Puru. Puru was originally a defeated tribe. And then came a tribe by the name Kuru, right? And then you might have heard about the name Kurus plus Panchals. Kurus and Panchals. These are the one who ruled Upper Gangetic Basin. All these tribes were having their own guru. For example, Guru Vashisht, Guru Vashisht was very much popular. Purus, Kurus and Panchals, there were numerous such tribes, and the tribal conflict was very much in existence. So the numerous tribes were kept on fighting with each other. The Aryans, they fought among each other also, and they fought with others also. So within the Aryans themselves, they were conflicting, they were fighting, and with others also they were in consistent fight. Now, you might have heard the Battle of 10 Kings or Battle of 10 Chiefs. This is a very popular war, very popular battle that was fought over the river Purushni. The river Purushni. This river is the same river that is river Ravi, one of the tributaries of river Indus. So the tribal conflict was a common or persistent phenomena there in Rig Vedic society, and the fights was among the Aryans also and outside the Aryan clan also. So this was with respect to the tribal society. Now, proceeding further, when we are witnessing a later Vedic period, in later Vedic period, we find that the society was divided into 4 varnas. Now, these 4 varnas were Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These 4 varnas were according to Purus Sukta. So the Brahmanas divided the society into these 4 varnas. Remember, when we are studying Rig Vedic period, our source of information are different from later Vedic period. In Rig Vedic period, we are referring Rig Veda itself, and then the oldest text of Iranian language, which is known as Zend-Avesta. We do have some inscriptions also, like Mitanni inscription, Hittite, Kassite, or Mitanni inscriptions. Mitanni inscriptions. Kassite inscription has been taken from Iraq, and then Mitanni inscription from Syria, and Hittite inscription from Turkey. So these are the sources of information of Rigvedic period. Whereas when we will study the later Vedic period, in later Vedic period, we do have Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved, Samved, Yajurved, Atharvaved. Apart from this, we are having Upanishads, we are having Puranas, we are having Aranyak literature. Aranyak literature means forest literature, and furthermore, in later Vedic period, the literature that form part of the manuscripts post Rigvedic period, it form a part. So the information, it is again very much rich in literature when we are referring later Vedic period. So Purushukta society is divided into 4 Varnas, and Brahmanas were very much powerful. Brahmanas were also having the power of mantras. They were claiming that even with the power of mantras, they can bring the gods into their command. That was the power of mantras that the Brahmins claim in Rigvedic period. So the Brahmanas were given numerous gifts. For example, the Brahmanas were provided as a gift in the form of women slaves. They were given clothes, cows, but never the land. This you need to understand. Brahmanas were never given land in the gift. They were given women slaves, they were given clothes, they were given food, and there were cows also, right? Now, let us proceed further. In this period, Vedic period, we need to understand that there were 4 different kinds of yajnas that was very much crucial. Now, these yajnas are Ashwamedh Yajna, Ashwamedh Yajna, Rajasuya Yajna, Vajpayee, and for common men, they need to worship, they need to pay their prayers to the Rishi. So they need to pay back Rishi Rin. In Hindi, it is known as Rin. Rin means debt. They need to pay the debt to the Rishi or to the Brahmanas. They need to pay Dev Rin. So the debt to the Rishi means the Brahmanas, the debt to the Devs or the gods or the goddesses, and then there was also one debt which was very much popular. This forms parts of 3 debts. Now this was Pitra debt, Pitra Rin. Pitra means our ancestors. So one needs to compulsorily perform these yajnas, these pujas, and pay the debts, right? And if you are belonging to the royal class, you need to perform the Ashwamedh Yajna, Rajasuya Yajna, Vajpayee Yajna. Ashwamedh Yajna was a chariot race where the royal horse was left to venture. So in whatever place the horse will venture, they all will accept the suzerainty of that particular emperor. Why these all yajnas are being performed? Just to maintain the hegemony of the priestly class or the purohits or the brahmanas only. Otherwise they are only the formalities, because in Rajasuya Yajna also there was the coronation ceremony of the emperor. The brahmana will only coronate the emperor, and for that purpose only this was the huge expenditure was being done by the king. In Vajpayee, the numerous chariots were drawn, and purposefully, deliberately, the kings chariot was made to win that chariot race. So these were numerous yajnas. What happened with the fact when all these yajnas grew in number? So Brahmanas need to be paid even at the smallest ceremony that was to be made by a common man. So when these yajnas, these ceremonies, this extra expenditure was made very much compulsory, the people were now feeling it very much difficult to sustain. Now they are saying, we do not want so much expenditure, and we do not want to pay that much to the Brahmanas. We do not want all these unnecessary events, because we are mainly the agricultural society, and in agricultural society, if you will slaughter, if you will give sacrifice of your animals, so how can you sustain? Because the animal sacrifice was made compulsory by the Brahmanas along with the performing of the yajna or the pujas. So animal sacrifice was opposed by the peasantry class, because the animals were the only asset that they are having when they are doing the agriculture. So the extra expenditure, it was also opposed. So people in society, they are now in need of any religion or alternative religion which do not ask for animal sacrifice, which do not ask for compulsory gifts, which do not ask for extra expenditure from the people, even if they have or they do not have. This led to the demand in the society, demand of some alternative religion, and you will find because of these events only, the religions like Jainism and Buddhism, they were very much powerful, very much popular, because they were giving an alternative to all these problems, and the people are now switching towards the Jainism and Buddhism. In Rigvedic period, where there were no taxes, in later Vedic period there were taxes. Bali, Bhag. Bali was the voluntary gift in the Rigvedic period, right? It became compulsory tax in later Vedic period, because now the king or the Rajan is more powerful. Again, when we are comparing these two, Rigvedic and later Vedic period, the later Vedic period, it is again later Vedic period. This is the period that witnessed the change in gods also. Whereas initially we were having only Indra, Agni and Varun as chief god. Now they are having Prajapati. Prajapati means Brahma. Prajapati, Vishnu, and then Rudra as chief god. So the change in the gods was also witnessed. So in the society now, the four varnas are existing, and these four varnas are by the name Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. Kshatriyas were only tax-paying classes in all these four varnas. So the only tax-paying class was the Vaishya. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. The only tax-paying class was the Vaishya class, only tax-paying class. And the Shudras, they were made to serve upper three varnas. Brahmanas and Kshatriya. So there was the tussle for supremacy. Among these two varnas. So you will witness that when in 600 BC, the Jainism and Buddhism came and it became popular. These two religions, they were mostly a target by the Kshatriyas against the supremacy or hegemony of Brahmanas, because Mahabir ji and Buddha both belong to Kshatriya class, right? So this was the development that was related to the Vedic period. Other phases, other aspects of the history will be covered in the times to come, period by period. Thank you very much. Stay safe.